Okay, welcome everyone to our Electronic Library Committee meeting. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Regional Council is practicing physical distancing, and all the councillors who are members of the committee are participating electronically. Councillors, if you at any time want to speak to a matter, please raise your hand and identify yourself. Please keep your devices muted until called upon to speak so that we can avoid feedback from our devices. Are there any declaration of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, let's move into the agenda item as listed. And that's the report, budget. And who is going to be handling that? Carol or Helen, or who wants to introduce it?
I think we're going to let Carol kick off on this one.
Perfect. Carol, you're up. You're nominated.
Okay, thank you. So the report basically is, oh, sorry. Can people see my screen?
No.
No, not yet.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Well, it gives us an opportunity to say good morning, Madam Chair.
Good morning, Madam Chair.
Good to see all your bright, shining faces. Les, come down and say hi after.
I will do that, ma'am, as you direct.
We can see your screen now, Carol.
Oh, good. Okay, so basically the report just talks about the budget. We had talked about that briefly at our last meeting. So asking for approval of the operating budget, property tax levy of $2.8 million, and the capital budget and capital forecast. So we've attached those to the report. Okay, so just a few considerations about the budget. It's got a net property tax levy of $2,844,000. It's a decrease of $205,000 or 6.7%. And that's primarily due to the reductions in staffing costs, program and travel expenses, and the contribution to the library capital reserve, which right now is a temporary thing in order to provide relief for the operating pressures. Basically, the budget was introduced within the context of the overall budget direction provided by Council. And then in point C, after adjusting for estimated rural assessment growth of 2%, the net tax rate impact is a decrease of 8.6%, which is a decrease of $7.13 per household. Capital plan, $1.768 million. With $133,000 of expenditures. I'm not sure, would you like to just go down and see some of these numbers, I guess, maybe? So this is the base budget. So in 2020, was $3.2 million, $3,099,000 in 2021. Here you can see the $205,000, which is coming from the 4 townships, and so that's the amount that have been talking about, the 6.7% decrease. So you can see that some of the changes are a decrease in compensation, the transfers to reserves, which was mentioned, and then a small decrease in user fees, and $100,000 being basically put away this year from the surplus that we're going to use next year to cover the janitorial costs related to COVID. So is there any questions about that? No? Okay. Down, this is the proposed capital budget. So you can see one of the changes up here is the library holdings. So in total, we are spending the same amount on the holdings, but we've taken money out of the operating budget and are using more of the RDC. Basically, we've been getting more RDC contributions, and it's also forecast to continue. So we think that that's sustainable. Other than that, most of the other things are similar to what you've seen before. We have a little bit of money in here for Breslau in 2022 and in St. Clements in 2026. And a little bit, a projection that we're going to spend maybe the Putty Coma State money in 2022. So for 2021, we have expecting to spend 141.
Councillor Shantz, you have a question?
What was the question I asked last? Oh, I'm sorry, Sandy, you going?
Yeah, I've got a question about the contribution from reserves. So previous years in 2020, the contribution from reserves was 20,000, I guess that is. And in 2021, it's 120,000. So are our reserves that high that we can continue to balance the budget that way
Carol,
for a number of years?
Carol, can you pop the PowerPoint up now? Just that final graph, just to give you a bit more context, because at the last meeting, Councillor Foxton had asked about the offset of the $40,000 reduction and how does it fit together with the capital budget. So this is the current plan, and I think it's worth giving you the rest of the context for historical spending from capital, but also historical growth in capital. And you'll see a really interesting anomaly happening this year, which puts this budget into a bit more context.
Okay, so, thanks.
So there's 3 different charts here.
Oh, Carol, actually, you're going to have to stop sharing your screen and start sharing a new one.
Oh,
sorry.
Oh, boy.
Nobody's flipping, right? We're just concentrating.
Have we lost Carol?
I think we lost her. Hey, Stevie, can you go find Carol?
Can I find her? I'm in the chambers right now. I'm sorry.
No. I think he means, is she in the waiting room waiting to come in?
No, she's not in the waiting room. It looks like she's left the meeting, but Terry does have access to the PowerPoint, so she will share the screen and you'll be able to see. Helen, you might have to pitch it until Carol joins us, okay?
Yeah.
If this is something you covered in the last meeting, I know I missed a couple of library meetings, but I think I was at the last one, so I apologize if it's something you've already covered.
No, well, so just to put what you just asked into context, which is the why from 20 to 120, that 100 is really a very temporary measure to cover the COVID expenses, right? So COVID expenses, we're not expecting those to go on forever and ever and ever. But if we go to the very last slide where you see that beautiful graph, that gives you a bit of a sense of, one more, there we go. So you'll see 2019, which is little, and then the 2020 estimate of what's going into that budget. So our capital reserves are going to be over $1 million this year because of the huge underspend from all the savings that we had during our lockdown, etc. So we're going from having a reserve of about 500,000 to just about $1 million in our capital reserve. So this is why we're proposing to use that money slightly differently. The top blue section is our RDCs, and you can see how those are changing as well. And then the blue is just so that you have the full context of capital reserves that are held by the library, and that's the Taylor estate. So not planning on doing anything with the Taylor, it's just there for full context. But that blue is the RDC. See how that chunk has grown significantly. So our RDC money is changing, but also that capital reserve, because of our underspend this year and the fact that that will go into the capital reserve, we can use that funding differently next year. And understanding the pressures on the budget and the tax levy, we're proposing that we use that $100,000 to offset the in the next year, because that is, from all intents and purposes, a fairly healthy capital reserve at the moment. So that's
Ellen,
the context.
you broke up a bit there. So that $100 will be used for, and then you broke up.
COVID. So the $100,000 is for COVID expenses,
Thank
right?
you.
So that's temporary. But looking at the size of that reserve, that 100,000 offsets the pressure that's on the tax levy at the moment for what is a significant increase in cleaning expenses because of COVID.
Rod, you wanted to comment?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to take us back to 2018 as well, 2017, 2018. This was the reduction in reserves there was primarily associated with the expansion of the library headquarters building, right? So you know, I think it's been fortuitous that we've been able to make up that ground in the last little while and put the reserves into a pretty solid position.
Good, good. Any other questions?
Sandy and I are both have our hands up. Do you want us to raise our hand less, or do you want us to do the blue hand?
Put the blue hand up, because right now I can't see your faces.
Okay, so can you stop sharing the screen so we can, it's easier to see who's got their hand up then. Thank you.
Yeah, so.
Sandy, you beat me.
It's okay, go ahead.
No, you go. It's not.
So when I look at the expenses, where do I see those COVID expenses that are being covered by the $100,000 that we're taking from reserves?
She was waving her hand like this. Who wants to answer that?
I think Carol's ready.
I'm just trying to unmute. Basically, so there's an increase in expenses, but there's other things that are reduced that basically kind of cover that. So in the 2021 budget, you don't actually see that big of an increase because there's other things that offset it.
So Sandy, I'm not sure that I understand your question. Are you looking back at the report now in Appendix A? Yes. Okay.
I'm just trying to see where that extra $100,000 is showing up in expenses, because if that's to cover COVID expenses, those COVID expenses should show up in the expenses.
And they do, but there are other offsets. So we've reduced programming, we've reduced various other things in the budget so that it doesn't actually show up as an increase.
But are the COVID costs not just increased cleaning costs and that sort of thing? So can we not put the chart up and refer back to the cleaning costs and maintenance?
Yeah, so in Appendix A, it would be in line, in the operating expenses line. It's in there. And like Carol's saying, there's an offset of other expenses. Let me see if I can find the PowerPoint from last time.
Good idea.
I can tell you where my mind is what my mind is trying to sort out here, because in general, I think reserves should be used for one-time costs. And so if this is a one-time cost, it makes perfect sense to use it. And we're talking about decreasing the budget, which is fantastic. I love that. But are we going to have to then increase it by that same amount next year to continue operating. So that's what I'm trying to sort out in my mind, and I can't quite see that yet.
Go ahead, Helen.
Right. So the answer to that question, which is the COVID expenses, are one-time expenses, right? This increase in our cleaning costs is only going to happen once. That money is going to go up. And then when COVID goes away, that level of cleaning is going to go away too. So the $100,000 that we're covering but so that means that this budget would be $100,000 less next year. With that in mind.
We hope.
But oh, sorry, carry on.
No, I was just going to say, but are not our expenses going to go up then? Because you said the expenses are down because of COVID also. The
right,
operating.
So that was this year. This year, because we locked down and we laid the staff off because the libraries were closed under the legislation, right? For a significant period of time. So we were not paying our staff out of this budget. So that's where those savings came from. But as time has moved on and we've moved into the ability to do library takeout, so we brought staff back. And even if we lock down again and go back into gray, that service will still continue. So our service is adjusted rather than stopped.
Okay, and so even if we were fully operational, our operating expenses would be $100,000 less than they were previously.
Once you take the COVID cleaning expenses out.
Yeah, just take COVID out and pretend we're all back to normal. And our operating expenses would be then 100. So you've found ways to operate more efficiently, that it would be $100,000 less than it was in 2019, say. Just take 2020 out of the picture.
That's right.
Forget about 20.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. That's what I was trying to figure out.
Yeah, I think we have to be careful about, commenting that COVID or what happens during COVID is a one-time thing, because we don't know how long it's going to go. All right. Rod, you want to comment?
Yeah. I'd just like to put a little bit of emphasis on Councillor Shantz's comments, because I think it's worth keeping them in mind, particularly because as we discussed in our last meeting, there is both the townships and our facilities teams have done a fair amount of analytical work on the branches, and we understand now, although I don't have that information in front of me, that there are some deficiencies that need to be addressed over the next little while. So it's important to keep in mind that that reserve is really going to be the primary source of funding for dealing with some of these deficiencies over the course of time. So I like the idea of taking a bit of a prudent approach to the reserves. This is well within scope. So I think managing this one-time expenditure is completely appropriate from the reserve, but there are other problems that we'll want to put our minds to, or challenges that we'll want to put our minds to with the reserve funding at some point in the near future.
Sue?
Thank you, Les. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's why I asked for this other meeting. We were supposed to find out what those deficiencies were, because we talked a lot about them, but no one nailed them down. What are the deficiencies we're talking about?
Don't everybody jump in at once.
Cheryl, did you want to jump in on that one?
Some of the deficiencies might be, perhaps Rod is referring to the building condition assessments that some of the townships have recently undertaken, and the region has as well. So looking at building deficiencies in terms of over the next 5 years, say everything from masonry to HVACs to flooring. So some of this is a kind of a mixed bag, if you will, with is it the interior or is it the envelope of the building? And of course, we know in 2025 we've got AODA coming up. So that's a whole other discussion. So I think that's going to take a concerted effort for some working groups, perhaps, have some input and some conversation around prioritizing, looking at the building deficiencies in detail. I know Wilmot has actually done a wonderful building condition assessment in addition to what the region has done. I think we're looking at working groups in the new year to look exactly at those details. I'm not an engineer, Mayor Foxton, I can't speak exactly the details, but if I'm looking at the regional building condition assessments, it includes everything from indoor light fixtures to exterior.
Yeah, and I'm aware, North Dumfries Township just did one a year ago as well. So we did all our buildings as well. So I'm aware of that. No, we just, do you have you talked about deficiencies at the last meeting, you threw out a number, but you didn't have the breakdown. Do you have one that says buildings and then this number of dollars and another deficiency is over here, this amount of dollars? That justified that breakdown?
By library building?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, no, not specifically what's going to happen in the building, but one will be building upkeep, and that will be X number of dollars. Or is all the deficiency in building upkeep?
Those are the numbers I'm looking at, is the building upkeep.
So the deficiencies are just building maintenance to keep it up to, okay, that's all I needed to know. Thank you.
Very good.
Who covers that? Do you cover that, or does the town, or do the townships, because there are buildings?
Depends on what it is. Good question. Also under discussion. So for example, if you're talking about the Elmira building, we've got some interior flooring that needs to be done. That's interior. That's not the envelope of the building. That's library, to the best of my understanding. If you're talking about the envelope of the building needing parging, masonry, roof, etc., that's the exterior of the building. That's the envelope of the building that would fall to the townships because they own the building.
So is each of the township aware of what they're responsible for in the upcoming years? So let's say that we need window replacement, all right? So have we notified, let's say it's my township, North Dumfries Township, these windows need replacing. Are you doing it if it's in your budget? That's what I'm asking, that kind of communication.
That's exactly the communication that needs to start happening. Absolutely, Mayor Foxton, we need to have detailed communications with each of the townships to say, these are the figures we have, this is what our people have found, what have your people found? Let's put those findings together and let's work on this together, bringing in facilities lead hand, bringing in the CAOs, looking at capital budget, etc. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but this is an excellent opportunity for conversation moving forward.
That's right. And we would have to do it in advance of a budget time. So if we wanted it done in 2022, we better start talking about it in early 2021. Okay, good. Thank you.
Anyone else have any comments or questions? Everybody is absolutely delighted. Everybody looks happy anyway. That's good.
So we can all go.
Go ahead, Sue.
Doesn't want to unmute. So we can all go out for coffee now? In another life.
As soon as the motion is passed, you are free to go. Until then, you are ours. Okay. So the recommendation that the Library Committee take the following action with respect to the 2021 Region of Waterloo Libraries budget as set out in Report CORFSD 2036 dated December 4, 2020. A, approve the 2021 Region of Waterloo operating budget with a net property tax levy of $2,844,642. B, approve the 2021 Region of Waterloo Library capital budget and the 2022 to 2030 capital forecast as appended. And C, refer the Region of Waterloo budget to the Region of Waterloo Budget Committee for consideration. And that is moved by Mr. Nowak and Ms. Foxton. All in favor? That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Is there any other business? Seeing none. Our next meeting will occur upon its determination. Now we need a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Fox and Councillor Shantz. All in favor? That is carried. And did we do that in a good enough time for you, Councillor Foxton?
Yes, now we can all go out for breakfast together. Where are we going? No kidding. Have a good day, guys.
We were just
Thanks,
wondering where
everyone.
you had an account.
See ya.
Enjoy the day.